host. Welcome to Quiet Connections, a space for stories about the unexpected moments that reawaken our hearts. We believe the most profound changes in our lives often don't begin with a bang, but with a quiet whisper, a shared glance, a moment of being truly seen. If you cherish these kinds of emotionally grounded human stories, please take a moment to subscribe to our channel and click the notification bell. Your support helps us continue to share these beautiful narratives. Today's story is about a woman who, after years of feeling invisible, discovers that she is still capable of being seen, and more importantly, of wanting to be seen again. Before we begin, a question for you. Have you ever had a small, simple moment with a stranger that completely changed the course of your day, or even your perspective? Let us know in the comments. Now let's join Laura on her journey. I didn't think anyone would notice me anymore. Not like that. Not after the divorce, the long, sterile nights at the hospital, the endless years of quietly folding laundry while my son played in the other room. I'm 47. I've worked the night shift as a nurse for as long as I can remember. I move through life in soft scrubs and worn-in shoes, holding space for other people's pain. Somewhere along the way I forgot what it felt like to simply be seen. But something shifted that weekend. It was supposed to be just a bowling tournament in Portland, Oregon, something I'd picked up a few years ago just to feel a little less invisible, to have something that was just mine. A hotel stay, a mediocre breakfast buffet, a couple of quiet days with my son. I didn't expect to feel that spark again, the kind that lives low in your belly, quiet but impossible to ignore. It started with a look. One man, one moment, and suddenly, I wasn't just a tired mom anymore. I was a woman again. I wasn't looking for trouble. I had one goal that weekend: bowl well, keep my son, Leo, close, and get just enough rest to survive the next grueling week of night shifts. I booked the hotel for the two of us. Nothing fancy, just clean sheets and an indoor pool he couldn't stop talking about. He's 15 now, half boy, half man, and harder to read these days. We shared breakfast that morning in the crowded hotel dining room. Pancakes and bacon for him, a black coffee, and a sad-looking plate of egg whites for me. He barely looked up from his phone, but I didn't mind. I was just grateful we were in the same room, sharing the same space. I almost didn't notice the man sitting 3 tables over. He wore a simple grey t-shirt, the kind that clings just slightly to the shoulders when someone moves the right way. Not young, maybe mid-40s like me, with a touch of silver at his temples. Not flashy, just solid, present. I caught him looking at me. Not staring, not leering, just aware. The way a man notices a woman, not a mother chaperoning her teenage son. I looked away quickly, a flush creeping up my neck, but something about that moment stayed with me, the weight of it, the way it tugged at something I thought I'd buried long ago. There was a time I could feel eyes on me when I walked into a room. Not because I was beautiful or flashy, I never wore short skirts or loud perfume, but because I carried something else. Warmth, maybe. An openness, a quiet kind of confidence that came from knowing who I was. That was before the night shifts ate my social life, before the broken vows of my marriage, before the years of patiently picking up the pieces no one else would touch. My ex-husband once told me I was easy to forget. He said it during one of our last bitter arguments, tossing the words out like a careless match, not knowing, or maybe not caring, that they would smolder in the back of my mind for years. I didn't cry then. I just nodded and went to wash the dishes. And maybe he was right. I'd stopped wearing mascara, stopped noticing my own reflection in shop windows. I had turned invisible, the way women sometimes do. Not all at once, but slowly, through the quiet erosions of routine and repetition. That's why the man at the breakfast buffet shook something loose inside me. It wasn't love. It wasn't even lust. It was simply the startling reminder that someone might still see me. and that I might, after all this time, want to be seen. Maybe it was safer not to feel anything. I kept telling myself it was nothing. Just a glance. Just a man eating toast and eggs, and maybe he was looking past me, not at me. But all through the morning, while I tied Leo's bowling shoes, packed a spare towel for the pool, and double-checked the tournament schedule, I kept thinking about that look. It wasn't even bold. It was soft, curious, and yet my stomach fluttered in a way it hadn't in years. At the alley, I kept my head down, focused on my warm-up, counted pins, not heartbeats, but there he was again, 2 lanes over. Same grey t-shirt. He didn't approach me. He didn't have to. I felt his presence like a subtle change in the weather, and that scared me, because I didn't know how to flirt anymore. I didn't know if I was ready to want again, and if I did want something, what in the world would I even do with it? Host. Laura's feeling of being seen for the first time in years is so powerful and relatable. It's amazing how a single glance can awaken parts of ourselves we thought were long dormant. If you're enjoying Laura's journey of rediscovery, please let us know by liking this video. It helps our community grow. And a question for you. Do you believe it's possible to feel a connection with someone before a single word is spoken? Let's get back to the bowling alley. I wasn't planning to speak to him. I figured if I just kept moving, score reset, bowl, repeat, the moment, the feeling would pass. But it didn't. After my 3rd strike in a row, I looked up to mark the scoreboard, and he was watching. Not staring, just appreciating, like he was seeing more than just the numbers on the screen. He nodded just once, a quiet congratulations, like we shared a secret. I smiled back, not a wide, practiced smile, but a small, real curve of the lips I hadn't used in a long, long time. During the break, he passed by my lane to refill his drink. I stepped aside instinctively, politely. "You've got a good rhythm," he said. His voice was warm, a little rough in a nice way, like worn denim. "Thanks," I replied, suddenly hyper-aware of how my t-shirt clung to my lower back, damp with sweat. We didn't linger. No extended glances, no exchange of numbers. But something had shifted between us. It wasn't a physical touch, but it felt like one. And as I watched him walk back to his lane, something inside me whispered, "You're allowed to want things again, Laura. I didn't expect anything more, and maybe that's what made it feel so different, so real." The tournament wrapped up late in the afternoon. I congratulated the winners, clapped for a teammate I barely knew. My son, Leo, had long since retreated to the hotel pool. As I was packing my shoes into my bag and slipping my towel over my shoulder, I felt a presence behind me. "You've got control," he said softly. "That's rare." I turned. He wasn't smiling, just looking at me with an expression that was open, interested, and steady. "Thanks," I said again, and then after a small pause, "You too." We stood there for a moment, the silence not awkward, just aware. He offered his hand. "Daniel." "Laura." His handshake was warm, firm. He held it for just a second longer than most people do, and I let him. Then he stepped back. "Maybe I'll see you at the next one." "Maybe," I said. I walked back to my hotel room alone, but not empty. Leo was asleep, the faint blue glow of the television flickering across his peaceful face. I kissed his forehead, changed into soft clothes, and lay down beneath the covers. I didn't feel young again. That's not what this was. But I felt awake. I felt possible. And that was everything. I didn't expect to see him again, not at the vending machine down the hall late at night, not barefoot, not holding a can of soda and looking just as tired as I felt. "Long night?" he asked, his voice low enough to match the quiet of the empty hallway. I nodded. I was still in my soft t-shirt and leggings, my hair loose, no makeup. My usual guard should have been up, but it wasn't. My son's passed out. Tournament stress, I joked. Mine too. Teens have it easy, he said with a soft chuckle. And for a moment I was surprised. He had a kid, a son. Suddenly he wasn't just an attractive man I'd had a fleeting connection with. He was someone who understood the life I lived, the late nights, the exhaustion, the delicate, often lonely, balancing act of being everything to someone while quietly trying to hold yourself together. You bowl like someone who takes it seriously, he said, leaning lightly against the wall. I take the silence seriously, I smiled. It's the one place I can actually hear my own thoughts. He looked at me for a moment longer, really looked, then offered me the extra soda he was holding in his other hand. I took it without thinking. Our fingers brushed. His touch was warm. Good luck tomorrow, he said, though I have a feeling you don't need it. We'll see, I whispered. I turned to leave, but something about the quiet comfort of the moment held me there. Daniel, I said, glancing back. He looked up. Thanks for noticing. He gave a soft, genuine smile. Hard not to. The room was dark when I slipped back inside. Leo was still asleep, one arm tossed over the pillow, the low buzz of a video still playing on his phone. I tucked the blanket around him and padded softly into the bathroom, clutching the cold can of soda as if it could steady my nerves. I closed the door, leaned against the cool sink and stared at my reflection in the mirror. No makeup, no filter, just me. My cheeks were flushed. My pulse still fluttered in that low, quiet place beneath my ribs. It had been so long since I'd felt this awake, this aware of myself. Not because of anything Daniel had explicitly done, he hadn't touched me, hadn't asked for anything, but because of the way he had looked at me, like I wasn't invisible, like I wasn't just surviving. I pulled off my t-shirt and reached for a warm towel, letting the soft fabric graze my skin. I moved slowly, not out of fatigue, but with intention. I wanted to feel something. The curves of my own body, the ones I used to cover without a second thought, now seemed mine again. Not for anyone else's approval, not for a partner to ignore or pick apart. I touched the base of my throat, felt the soft rise and fall of my own breath, and allowed myself to exhale fully, completely. There, in that quiet, anonymous hotel bathroom, I didn't feel shame. I didn't feel guilt. I felt possibility, and that possibility made my skin hum. The next morning, the tournament wrapped up with the usual chaotic noise, claps, half hugs, people packing their gear and rushing off. I didn't see Daniel at first. I thought maybe he'd already left. But just as I was tying my laces, I caught a glimpse of him leaning against the back wall, arms crossed, just watching. Not in a possessive way, just waiting. When our eyes met, he smiled. Not wide, but soft, familiar, like we'd been here before. You heading out? He asked, walking over. Soon, I said, just waiting for my son to finish his last swim in the pool. He nodded, then paused. There's a little coffee shop 2 blocks down. Real quiet. Best chai in town if you're into that kind of thing. The invitation wasn't loud. There was no pressure behind it. Just a gentle question folded inside a simple, quiet moment. I hesitated, not because I didn't want to go, but because saying yes felt significant. It would mean stepping out of the comfortable, predictable role I had inhabited for so long, the tired nurse, the devoted mother, the woman who only exists between shifts and her son's routines. I have about 45 minutes, I said. That's more than enough, he smiled. We walked there in silence, but it wasn't awkward. Our steps fell into an easy rhythm. Occasionally our arms brushed against each other. It wasn't a deliberate touch, but it made me feel everything. The coffee shop was quiet, just a few scattered tables, a record player humming something soft and jazzy in the corner, and the warm smell of nutmeg and cinnamon in the air. We sat across from each other at a small table by the window, "Are you always this calm?" I asked, a genuine curiosity in my voice. He laughed, a low, quiet sound. "No. But you make it easier." I looked down at my hands, unsure what to do with a compliment that didn't feel performative or loaded with expectation. "You remind me," he continued, "of what it looks like to keep going, even when it's hard." I met his eyes. "You don't even know me." "I know enough." I wasn't sure who leaned in first. Maybe it was both of us. But the moment hung there in the quiet coffee shop, not a question, not a demand, just time slowing down. His fingers touched mine first where they rested on the table. No grab, just warmth. An anchor. When he kissed me, it wasn't fast or hungry. That's what made it so intensely intimate. His lips were soft, his hand still just covering mine. My heart beat faster, but not out of panic. It was the kind of kiss that didn't need to prove anything. It just was. And for the first time in a decade, I let myself have it. The drive home was quiet. Leo napped in the passenger seat, his headphones on, his fingers twitching slightly to the beat of whatever music he was listening to. The highway stretched ahead, long and grey and ordinary. And yet nothing felt quite the same. Daniel hadn't asked for my number. I hadn't offered. There was no need. Some things aren't meant to be chased. Some connections are just meant to be felt, then folded gently into the pocket of who you've become. When I pulled into our driveway, I shut off the engine and just sat there for a moment. The silence wasn't heavy anymore. It was full. I looked at my own hands on the steering wheel, the same hands that cleaned hospital wounds and checked fevers, and once, just hours ago, had trembled against a near stranger's cheek. I wasn't a different woman, but I was no longer invisible. That weekend didn't fix everything. My life was still mine, messy, tired, beautiful, but it had reminded me of a fundamental truth. I'm still here. I can still want, and I can still choose. I pressed a soft kiss to my son's temple as he stirred beside me, waking up as we came home. Host. Thank you for walking with Laura through this gentle, beautiful story. It wasn't a story about grand passion or dramatic life changes, but about something perhaps even more profound, the quiet, personal act of becoming visible to yourself again. For years, Laura had existed for others, her identity as a woman subsumed by her roles as a nurse and a mother. What happened that weekend wasn't just about a man named Daniel. It was about a single validating glance that reminded her she still existed in the world as a woman, desirable and whole. And that small spark was all it took to reawaken her own sense of possibility. It's a powerful lesson that sometimes we don't need someone to rescue us. We just need someone to see us, so we can finally give ourselves permission to see ourselves again. What a beautiful, quiet connection. We hope this story resonated with you. What are you ready to reclaim in your own life? Let us know in the comments. And if this story moved you, please subscribe to Quiet Connections. There are so many more stories to come. Until next time, be kind to yourself. You deserve to be seen.